I'm going to be reacting in this video to some of the interesting comments about AI in education that sometimes controversial CEO of Stable AI, Emad Mostaque, recently made. So I'm going to talk about his comments and how that applies directly to education, some things that we should really be thinking about.
By the end of next year, you'll have ChatGPT on your mobile phone without internet.
Wow. So we're talking about a stability chat, right?
Yeah, stable chat.
Stable chat. Let's name it properly.
Yeah.
So incredible, because you've talked about taking how many terabytes of data down to a couple of gigabytes?
So like, actually, this is probably one thing that I wanted to talk about quickly.
Please, yeah.
The easiest way for us to communicate has been speech. It's what we're doing now. Text has been harder, but you've seen with ChatGPT, it's now easier. You just ask it to rewrite your kind of emails. And with Office 365 and Workspace, it'll do that. And visual was the hardest. These have all been flattened by this technology now, so we can communicate anything. But the technology behind it, as you said, was a bit crazy. To do this, what we did, so Stable Diffusion was our text-to-image model. We were like, do we do it big and do loads of layers, or do we make it accessible? And we were like, accessible. So we worked super hard, Manhattan Project, and we took 100,000 gigabytes of images, 2 billion, and created a 2 gigabyte file that can generate anything.
Okay, let's slow that down, because the meaning of that is insane. How many terabytes was it?
It was 100 terabytes,
yes,
100,000 gigabytes, and the output was a 2 gigabyte file that can create anything.
And that 2 gigabytes is, sits on your phone, your laptop, in your brain.
It was the whole stack. So intelligence is compression. You're going to go away from this event, and you're going to compress the things that you learn and have key takeaways, right? That's what we do, and that's what these machines do now. But again, it's a single file. 4 of the top 10 App Store apps in December were based on Stable Diffusion. And it was the entire stack. A single file of weights, of numbers.
That's extraordinary.
Words go in, images come out. And it's the same. ChatGPT is a single file. Actually, it's a couple of files, but let's say it's a single file. Words go in, code comes out. Amazing essays come out. So this is something a bit different. And again, it's like, you've taught an analyst just about everything. Or it's an artist, the analyst, and things like that. I think we'll get it down to 100 megabytes.
So his comment here about the idea of the large language models being able to be compressed to the point where it can reside on your cell phone and you can use it using ChatGPT or some other generative AI, and you'll be able to fully use it even without the internet. That's something really powerful for us to think about, in that now a student could use that at any time, at any point, with the internet, without the internet. They have that AI with them. They have that AI. So many students who already think this, even without the capability of doing something without the internet, because most students already think that they'll always have the internet, no matter where they're at, whether it's Wi-Fi or a personal data plan. They always have this feeling that their cell phone is an extension of themselves. So now even more so with this AI, especially given the fact that it can reside even without the internet. So that's a very powerful thing to consider as well. So what does that mean for us as far as instructors in the classroom? It's just going to be another thing for us to consider in the way that we're formulating assignments, formulating instructions, in that, having the student use an AI in the classroom as part of your teaching, that needs to be something that's considered. That needs to be something that's implemented. I know there's many debates as far as how much AI should be used within the classroom, and that's something that you as the instructor have to make that decision. But you do need to start to incorporate it. It's just a new reality, because this is going to be an extension of themselves in some way, right? We do want them to develop this basic skills mastery on things. We do want them to be able to do content on their own so that they can use the AI at a much higher level, right? By having this ability, by understanding key concepts without the use of AI, then when they go to use the AI, they'll be able to, one, interact with it at a higher level, know the right questions to ask, know the right way to formulate the prompts, as well as being able to properly understand the output, to know what right looks like, to be able to interpret it in the best way. So it's going to be a delicate balance. It's just another thing for us to be aware of, to be cognitive of, as we design our courses and as we incorporate into our actual classroom instruction.
So again, we have to kind of think about this, and we have to think, but what can you do? Well, the answer is you can do anything now, because a lot of the stuff that blocked you isn't there anymore. Any of you can now be creative. Any of you can now build systems. And so you build the systems that adhere to the unchanging demands of people to make their lives better. And that's value, and they'll pay you for that value.
We're all creators, and we're, in fact, we had Will I Am last night at our patron dinner, who's just this incredible creative energy across all modalities. And all of a sudden, you're not restricted by what you learned in school. You can bring the best to anything you desire.
It's the best to anything done. You can control it. So you can just say, like, take something and change it to its original form, like this, Emad.
From mindset to materialization. Which version of you do you like best?
I don't know. Exactly. I just say I want to change it to this or that, and it happens instantly now with a new version.
Yeah.
You can say, let's do dynamic adaptation again. It happens in 1 second. You generate all of these variants, That you say, I want to turn Woody into a still from a Western, right? Or replace a fruit with cake. So it also becomes more natural.
Everyone is creative now. I like that, right? I like that statement, the idea that the use of AI now reduces barriers. And that's a major point that's been coming up more and more, dealing with the democratization of AI, because it's going to be so ubiquitous and available. There's multiple free AIs. We just talked about it being available with the internet, without the internet, completely on your cell phone. So this idea of, again, the extension and being able to do so much more, that's a very powerful thing, and something that we need to consider. We need to start looking at this and thinking, what, my student can do so much more. I can expect much more from the student. They should be able to create really dynamic images that help explain the content of what you're explaining to them. So again, you can say, hey, you need to come up with images about this. You need to create images for your explanation, for your presentation when we have student presentations about this topic. You need to create music, create videos. Why am I expecting such enhanced abilities from my students? Because they can do it now. Because the AI has really created this increased power dynamic where students are able to create really impressive images. They are able to create all sorts of different audios in different ways, even video, complete videos. The AI can assist with so much of that. So this should improve the dynamics of us creating a really immersive type of instructional environment, as well as what we're expecting them to be able to also contribute, the assignments that we make. It's no longer just a simple aspect of just text, visual aspects, visual representations. This is all now capable through the use of AI. And it's something that's very easy and very free. So that's the other big thing. Sure, there's still some issues with having access to actual laptops and maybe cell phones, although everyone has a cell phone, but still, this is something to at least consider. Maybe this is something that gets done just in class, depending on your actual environment and the ecosystem as far as access to technology. But this is something that really has to come into play. There's so much more that students can do, so we need to be expecting much more of them. Why? Again, this is all in preparation for when they graduate. What are they being expected to do within the actual employment that is going to be out there for them? What's expected of them right now in actual employment? So these are some things that we must take into consideration so that we can properly prepare the student for success upon graduation. Now, I know I don't want to get into debates, right? I know that the purpose of our education, the purpose of the whole process isn't just to prepare them for a job. They need to become well-rounded citizens. But again, this process of using AI in this advanced way of incorporating that into the assignments of what they do, man, it just really increases the motivation, the fun factor, and the emotional connection that they'll be able to make, much more than simple text, much more than simple essays. But incorporating some writing, as well as presentations, images, video, audio, which is all now capable with AI.
You're a 20-year-old on our Zoom audience here or in the room, or 23-year-old, and you're trying to decide what to do now. What is your advice?
You just throw yourself 100% into this. It's the biggest change in society ever. It'll be more disruptive than the pandemic in the next year or two. And I led the United Nations AI initiative against COVID-19, kayak, you know, helping organize the world's COVID knowledge and making it accessible and useful.
Yeah.
So I saw that coming. It'll be for positive and negative, because you can do things that could never be heard of. As an example, we have an upscaler. It goes from 128 pixels to 4K in 1.5 seconds. That to that.
That's amazing.
What can you do with that? This is the thing. You are given now the recipes and tools. What can you do? So there's going to be 1,000 companies spending $10 million each this year. I spoke to one of the big 4 accounting firms. They were like, do we need auditors anymore? I'm like, probably not as many. All right. And then they said, okay, we're going to spend $300 million in the next 2 quarters trying to figure this out.
But that's times many, many firms.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. And again, this is the mimeticness. We've seen this type of thing happen, like with the Silicon Valley Bank collapse.
Yeah.
Our society's become more and more connected. And we've talked about expert systems. I mean, how long have we talked about expert systems for?
Yeah, a bit.
Yonks. They're here now, right? And again, this is why you can do these crazy things.
That's another interesting statement right there. What can you do with that? That's a statement that really hits at education, because we have to prepare the students for the future. We have to prepare them to be able to succeed. So we really need to start asking ourselves, okay, do we need a lot more of this subject matter? Do we need a lot more of this subject matter? Again, we have to be able to properly balance things out so that we can be effective in preparing them, and so that we can be relevant. If we're not adapting properly to the new realities that AI has brought to us, then we're not relevant anymore. And that's a really powerful thing to think of, because again, teachers are so important, but we have to be able to teach what they need in order to succeed. So that's a big, powerful statement that we need to really be thinking about more and more, is what can you do with that? So that's a difficult question, because we're still so new in this idea of AI everywhere, all at once. So we should really be looking at that. With all these different tools, what is it that students need to learn so that they can succeed? So of course, AI literacy, all the different skills and components of that. Do they need more analytical skills? Do they need more creativity skills in order to be able to put these things together? How much should we be teaching them in class as far as using AI, developing their abilities, being a prompt engineer or coding, or, taking a step back, looking at the higher picture, brainstorming new ideas of how to put content together? All these different things we really need to be thinking about. And then of course, trying to implement that within our classes. So the creativity aspect, the utilization in new ways, all of that needs to come into play as we move forward.
For me, we have a common passion in disrupting and reinventing education.
Yeah.
Where I can have in a virtual world, learn about anything I want, a time machine to go and have my favorite, characters teaching me about anything I need. And that's 2 years away.
Yeah, I mean, that actually might be here right now. I mean, again, kind of you've seen glasses, 3D displays and all sorts of crazy things. But one of the things with this is contextualization. Because again, we are the stories we make. So one of the things we're working on that's quite fun is, can you remake Game of Thrones as a J-drama from Korea? So you input it and the characters turn Korean, right?
Wow.
I'm also trying to get George R.R. Martin and HBO to let me remake Game of Thrones Season 8, because it was terrible. Yeah, and actually it's very interesting why, because Game of Thrones Season 1 to 7, everyone had agency and the meaning was in the interaction between our stories of the characters. Whereas the last one tried to get us to an ending, and so it felt so disjointed. So I'm like, I'll help you write your book. We have a script writing AI coming out and a book writing AI coming out. And so we can tell better stories that are more empathetic and engaging. Because again, this is more engaging for the thing. You can customize your thing everywhere. You can customize to every learner. How crazy is that?
Again, we see the power of AI in being able to create stories, to create emotional connections, to become more personalized. So in academia, we need to use that as much as possible so that we can really get to the student to help them understand the concept, to help them understand that topic as we give them information. So they talked about lots of great, cool new tools and possibilities with virtual reality, full immersion. Great. But, even before we get to that level, we can still do things like create interesting images that are specific to the topic, create different ways of presentation that's even more specific to individual learners. So again, there's so much there for us to think about and for us to use in instruction, as well as for the students to learn in their learning. The assignments that we give, the way that we interact, the presentations that we have them make, even part of the discussion, all of this comes into play. So again, we in academia need to look as much as possible into how much more AI could be implemented to, again, enhance that overall educational experience, to make it as dynamic, engaging, and memorable as possible.
What do you do next?
I think what you have to do next, again, is kind of what you said. You need to have a dedicated, there's nothing more important in your entire business than this.
Yeah. So I want to echo that, right? Today, the world changes. Electricity is made available, the telephone is made available, internet's made available, and this is all of those things together all at once everywhere.
Yeah, this is 5G. This is bigger than 5G. Over $1 trillion went into 5G, more will go into here.
It is driven by passion.
It's driven by passion. Everyone here understands the importance of passion.
Yes.
And passion is what you need for this, because this is a regime change. It is not more of what came before. So you have to throw yourself in it and have that flexibility of mind. And the key thing is, can it bring you what the next thing is for your industry?
That's a very powerful statement as well, in that things are changing. We don't have all the answers. That's for sure. But we do need to see the importance of it. We do need to have this passion, like you talked about, in being able to use the system, trial and error, to improve, to constantly see what can be done. This is a large, like he said as well, big change. It's an evolution, a revolution into how society works. So we in academia need to be thinking as much as possible, what can we do to assist with that? He talked about some additional skills there, right? Flexibility, being able to work with different types of systems, having that passion, so we can help by helping the student see that, understand that, gain those type of skills, and also motivate them, show them that there can be success, and give them opportunities to go through these processes in the classroom so that they can then be that much more able to do that outside of the classroom as well.
Just chat 1 second about your vision on Malawi.
Yeah, so, X Prize for Learning, fantastic prize by Tony, who's here next week, tomorrow, I think, and then Elon Musk, for the first app that could teach literacy and numeracy in 18 months without internet. We've been deploying that into refugee camps, the winner of that, all around the world, from Rohingya to Malawi to Kenya. And we're teaching 76% of kids literacy and numeracy in 1 hour a day in 13 months, in the worst places in the world with adaptive learning.
Yeah. Let's give it up for this. So that's been the core of Emad's passion and moonshots, but he's taking it a step further.
Taking it a step further, because by doing that, this is without this AI. So we work with the Malawian government as the first example. We're feeding 30% of all the kids in Malawi. We're going to go to 100% and give every child in Malawi their own AI. I want to call it one AI per child, but I've been told not to. And that's kind of with our charity, Imagine Worldwide. But then we've built a special type of bond with the World Bank and UBS, whereby you put down $20 million, you only pay if 1 million kids are provably educated. And so we're going to use that, and the World Bank pays up front, and then you can have it in your pension fund and see how 1 million kids are doing. We're going to use that to scale these tablets, plus high-speed internet in every school, to every child across Africa. 9 out of 10 kids in Africa cannot read and write a sentence by the age of 10. What happens when they all have their own AI that works for them, that's as intelligent as ChatGPT, and healthcare on that tablet?
Yes.
The AI teaches the kids, learns from the kids, and that will also create the national models for every country.
Yes.
Because right now we hold the eyes open of the AI and we teach the whole internet, which is why it goes a bit crazy, you know? And again, we use reinforcement learning and other things to guide it. This will be different. So that technology scales. Again, there's nothing more as impactful as one-to-one tuition, and now we can do it in an empathetic way that adapts to each child. I believe that we can also address things like dyslexia and other things, so it's just information processing. And you will see that coming. We're doing a big drive towards that. Any information processing issues will be solved by this. Are you an auditory learner, visual learner? There are no more interfaces.
So it's completely customized learning for the individual, their favorite color, sports star, way of learning modality, knows exactly where they are and where they need to go.
Building the foundation to activate humanity's potential. And so we're going to open source our new language models next month. And then we're going to announce the next generation of this. An open model for all of the world that you deserve for education and healthcare and other things, because humans are humans. Bring them the information that creates the most value and you will change the world.
Wow, lots of powerful, interesting, and exciting things there. Yes, this is a key part of his business as well, dealing with openness, right? The open source aspect. And the fact that he's talking directly about education is exciting in itself. I mean, imagine the things that could happen if we have a system that's completely open, that educational institutions can totally use and manipulate as far as enhancing and using it to really address specific needs within that school. So there's lots of interesting things coming in the future. So open source, keep your eye on that as far as lots of things that will be coming, dealing specifically with education. The other part that he talked about there is adaptive learning, right? Some of us are a little scared and worried as far as, oh, he's talking about the AI teaching the student. So that means that I'm no longer going to be needed. No, that's not the case. But what we do need to understand is that, yes, an AI can very much teach a student. It can very much help them to understand. One of the big things that I'm very much trying to help in academia is trying to create prompts that will help the AI act as a simulation to help the student go through an experience. And in that experience, they're very much learning, they're interacting, they're having this discussion, they're asking questions, they're answering questions. So it's this one-to-one interaction where they're really starting to learn things. Now, that's just a tool. That's one aspect of their overall learning experience, because you're still there as that teacher to then bring that back in. Okay, what did you learn from that? Let's have a discussion. Let's have this social learning, right? And where everything gets enhanced and where we can talk and create more emotional connection with everything. That's really where we then have the long-term learning. It's one thing to be able to gain a lot of data, a lot of information. It's a whole other thing to fully incorporate that within our minds and have true knowledge. So again, the teacher then acts as this central location where they can help the student to fully understand what they went through, to really solidify the learning, to turn it into a real transformative event. So that's the real power that the teacher will always have. The professor will always be able to really magnify the learning, even if we incorporate components of adaptive learning. So, they can learn something on the AI and then bring it to the classroom. And now we're engaging with that even more. We're creating even more emotional connections. I, as the instructor, and really being that role model to really motivate them to go through this learning process, to really show them and teach them about how this can be used in the future, and why this knowledge is so important. Again, that motivational aspect to really help them see the relevance, to really see the significance of this, as well as to really give them opportunities to use their skills, to see how they have now transformed into this student that can do these things. So that's a big thing that the teacher does, is give them opportunity to showcase their skills, to display their skills, to demonstrate that they can do this and they can succeed into the future. So this is really good, interesting information coming from Stable AI, the creators of Stable Diffusion. So again, another great tool for us to look into. Again, many different tools out there. Along with all of this, we have to remember that we're always pushing for AI literacy so that students understand not just how to use all these different great tools, but also to use it appropriately, to consider ethical considerations, and also to always have that critical mindset, that critical skill to evaluate anything dealing with an AI, right? Because there will always be situations where it might create false information. So that critical aspect of ensuring and evaluating is going to be vitally important, as well as to avoid over-reliance. They still need to have these capabilities within their minds so that they can be that much better, that much more of an expert in using the AI properly and understanding what right looks like. Lots of great things. So if you appreciate any of this information, I would definitely appreciate a like as well as a subscription to this channel so that I can continue to develop this and we can continue to generate more discussion and enhance our overall community of inquiry, community of learning, dealing with AI in education, because this is a vital thing that is needed in order to enhance academia in general. And remember, learning is for life.